Wow, the Raiders finally found their franchise quarterback in week 8 of the regular season. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this completely changes the season, but let's break down the latest member of the Silver and Black and see if somehow we can squeeze something positive out of the season. By the way, it's Chiefs week. Raiders are playing the Chiefs at home at Allegiant Stadium. I'm sure Patrick Mahomes is going to remember this little Muppet that was shared during practice and training camp. Remember, Antonio Pierce trash talked the Chiefs during the offseason, saying he has the recipe to beat the Chiefs.
Cool, like I told them, like we're running back. We'll see them again. They got to see us, we got to see them. And we already given the recipe of how to do it.
Hopefully this does not bite us in the ass, but I'm sure the Raiders are going to have a tough time against the Chiefs if they couldn't handle the Broncos, the Steelers, and most recently the LA Rams. And it's hilarious how some of Antonio Pierce's comments are just not aging well at all. Remember in the offseason, he said, "Don't worry about our quarterbacks, buddy. Worry about yours." Well, right now, quarterback is such a big concern for the Raiders that they're literally signing a new person in week 8. So I think we have a lot to worry about, not just the quarterback position, but also the head coach. Meanwhile, the main reason why the Raiders are signing a new quarterback, if you don't know, you probably know already, Aiden O'Connell was injured in this last game, and he actually fractured his thumb and is going to be placed on IR. We originally thought, hey, maybe he could bounce back in a few weeks, but this guy's done. This guy's potentially done for the entire season, and that is probably why the Raiders signed this new quarterback. By the way, Antonio Pierce is going absolutely viral. Vegas Sports Today had this video of Pierce coming in from the tunnel. And I think people are looking too into this, but you know, he was smiling. He was smiling here after the L. You could see him early on in this video. Raiders have the L. He says hi to Tom Telesco, and there's a little bit of a smile. Right. I think he's just trying to laugh through the pain right now. Some people have said, hey, you know, Raiders are tanking, trying to get a high draft pick. Antonio Pierce was quoted saying, "We're not a good team right now, but we're not tanking." That's what he said in the latest press conference. The wording of this full quote at the press conference on Monday was actually a little sus. You know, sometimes whenever you say you're not trying to do something, that means you're actually trying to do it. Pierce said the season is not over. We're not tanking. We're not trying to lose games to do anything better for the future. I mean, just don't say that at all. It's just that common saying when someone's like, hey, I'm not trying to be offensive, but I'm not trying to say this about you, but I'm not trying to tank for better assets in the future, but that's kind of like the same thing we have going on here. The only issue I have with this is that if the Raiders are tanking, if Antonio Pierce is tanking, that kind of sucks for us Raiders fans, because that means that Antonio Pierce is part of the tank and potentially the head coach next year. I don't think this guy is going to be part of the solution, so I'm a little skeptical of any plan that has him in the future, him guiding the next franchise quarterback for the Raiders. I think that's a recipe for disaster. But hey, maybe the Raiders already have their new franchise quarterback, since the former Atlanta Falcon, then Arizona Cardinal, Desmond Ridder, has been signed by the Raiders. He was plucked off of the Cardinals practice squad today. This happened Monday, right after we found out that Aiden O'Connell was going to be placed on IR and no longer a part of the season for the Raiders in 2024. Now, we don't know for sure if this guy is going to start. Tom Pelissero from NFL Network explained that Aiden O'Connell is headed to injured reserve, and now Ridder, the former Falcons starter, and we have to not forget that he did start with the Falcons, pretty much started the entire 2023 season, but in 2022 really did compete with Marcus Mariota. So he was drafted in 2022. He's 25 years old right now, but was a third-round pick, part of that kind of whack QB draft class in 2022, which featured Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, and then Desmond Ridder in that third round. And primarily for most of the time, he sat behind Marcus Mariota in that 2022 season, and they kind of did Mariota dirty, where they acted like Mariota was going to be the starter for all of 2022. Arthur Smith was the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons back then. And then boom, they said Ridder is going to be the guy. That kind of rubbed Mariota the wrong way. He was no longer at the facility. Randomly, in December of 2022, they made Desmond Ridder the starter. In 2022, this guy did not look too bad. He went 2-2 as a starter, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and was able to also use his legs. That's part of this guy's game coming out of Cincinnati. He's a dual threat quarterback. That is why they had Marcus Mariota in 2022 as the guy, the bridge QB, standing above him, because they figured they were the same prototype, and they really are. He had 193 rushing yards with 5 rushing touchdowns in 2023 when he actually started 13 games for the Atlanta Falcons. Eventually, Taylor Heineke would come in. He dealt with some injuries and essentially was benched, kind of exaggerating some of the injuries because he had a poor performance. 12 touchdowns, 12 picks in 2023. The last time he was a starter, had that 6-7 record, and was essentially replaced with Heineke and then was in and out of the lineup. So it really hasn't been going well for Desmond Ridder ever since he was traded by the Atlanta Falcons to the Arizona Cardinals to back up Kyler Murray, because he could not even really do that. The Cardinals ended up releasing Desmond Ridder before the start of the season. He was supposed to be the backup to Kyler Murray, but instead was beaten out by the 5th round pick in 2023, Clayton Tune. Clayton Tune instead has gotten the nod to be the backup for Kyler Murray, and he has been all of this year. And that's why Desmond Ridder was on the practice squad. And it was funny because when this released, when it came out that Desmond Ridder was going to be released by the Arizona Cardinals, what went viral and what always goes viral with Desmond Ridder is his DoorDash commercial. They're like, this clip of Desmond Ridder in this DoorDash commercial is now going viral now that he's been released by the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, the joke is that he's now working at DoorDash now instead of being a professional football player. And you've seen this happen before with Bryce Young. When he was benched, they had that Raising Cane's commercial that he did, and people use this against him. It is a pretty funny meme and a funny thing to see go viral whenever things don't go well. But that's a lesson to all athletes. Watch out what commercials you do. These fans and these trolls are going to use it against you. You even see some of the comments here, bro setting himself up, LMAO. And it just set himself up for pretty good memes and pretty good laughs doing this DoorDash commercial. But hey, shout out to Desmond Ridder. Hopefully he's going to do well with the Raiders. Out of everybody in the 2022 draft class, I will say among those QBs, I was the most interested in Desmond Ridder, but it just didn't work out. Hopefully now he's in a good opportunity to take advantage of the situation with the Raiders, because it's quite clear that the Raiders do not like Gardner Minshew. I don't know exactly what to say about this, what to make of this, but the Raiders very clearly don't want to use this guy. And you actually just felt in the game against the LA Rams when you can kind of see the morale drop once Aiden O'Connell was injured. Now, don't get me wrong. My personal opinion would not have made a damn difference who was playing quarterback in that last game. I don't think Aiden O'Connell's been doing well. And actually, according to Raiders insiders Vic Tafur and Tashawn Reed of The Athletic, these guys actually wrote a piece saying that even before Aiden O'Connell was injured in this past game against the Rams, the Raiders were already looking around for a QB. They were already looking for somebody to kind of give them a spark and add to that quarterback room. They were not content with obviously Gardner Minshew or even Aiden O'Connell. So they were still looking around. To me, you're already done. You're already in a huge hole if you're still looking for a quarterback in week 8 of the season. At this point, I understand the idea of tanking at this point. Obviously, you can never admit to tanking. You can never do that. But what are the Raiders really about to do this year? What is really going to happen? Now, I think maybe Desmond Ridder could bring some more positive plays, and it can kind of at least make the fans a little happy. Obviously, he's a mobile guy. Maybe he can use his legs and bring some excitement, get some points there. But against the Kansas City Chiefs, in Allegiant Stadium, I don't know if this is the week to start Desmond Ridder. I assume Gardner Minshew is still going to be the starting quarterback this year. I was actually talking to my wife about this, and I was saying, there's no way this guy plays this weekend, right? And she was like, well, Baker Mayfield, remember in 2022 against Josh McDaniels and the Raiders, he was signed by the Rams, and then 5 days was able to start against the Raiders and beat them. So you never know if, Desmond Ridder is going to play this upcoming week. But what we do know for a fact is the Raiders were not content with their quarterback position, not content with Minshew and O'Connell, and this led to Desmond Ridder being signed, even if O'Connell did not get hurt. According to these guys of The Athletic, seems like somebody like Ridder would be signed. I don't know what the plan is here, though. I don't know what the plan is here for Antonio Pierce. I don't know if he's part of the Raiders' future plans. That's why, you see certain fans criticizing him, saying that he's tanking. A lot of people made some allegations against this guy because he made some suspect decisions and because he was smiling, right? Which I don't think that's fair to say, because the guy only has a 2-year contract this year and next year. The amount of money that he's making, from what I gathered recently due to his filing that he had, the bankruptcy filing, I think the Las Vegas Review-Journal said he's making roughly $8 million a year. I don't think that this guy is part of the long-term plans for the Raiders. So why would he want to tank? Why would he be in on that? It's just going to make his win-loss record look bad. It's going to hurt his job security, hurt his reputation around the NFL. Yeah, maybe some owner or some GM could say, oh, don't worry, you're good to go. We're all tanking together, but you can never be too confident with those assurances. So maybe Antonio Pierce and general manager Tom Telesco, because they're on a short leash, maybe they really do think this could help salvage the season and at least get 6 wins, at least get something. But if you're a fan like me, you're kind of thinking, well, I think we're going to press the reset button anyways next year, and maybe we should embrace the tank. But it's much harder to embrace the tank when you have coaches on short-term deals. GM Tom Telesco, we don't really know the length of his deal and how much he's being paid, how much is he fully guaranteed. So when you got a coach who's on thin ice, he's not really going to want to embrace the tank. So I think he's going to look towards this Desmond Ridder acquisition and see if it can give the Raiders a spark against the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. We'll find out soon if Desmond Ridder's really playing. We'll find out if Desmond Ridder can maybe, if it's not this year, be part of the Raiders' future plans when they draft a quarterback in 2025. Maybe Desmond Ridder could be a good backup to somebody like a Shadur Sanders, like a Jalen Milroe. That could be a little interesting combination that I could see working out. Remember, I said long ago that the Raiders should give the former Oregon Duck who was on the team but they released, Anthony Brown, they should give him a shot. And I got mocked, I got made fun of because I made a video talking about Anthony Brown, how he's got some pretty good traits. And I think if given the opportunity, he could excel in preseason. He was only given 1 preseason game against a shitty 4th string offensive line. And now look at the Raiders quarterback situation. They don't even want Minshew to be on the field, despite the fact that he's making $12 million a year and was the named starter going into week 1 and technically the captain. They don't even want him to be on the football field. Meanwhile, Anthony Brown is no longer on the team. He's been released, and now they're reaching and signing Desmond Ridder. So this is an absolute disaster. Hopefully something could change for us Raiders fans, and hopefully next year is completely different.